what counts is whether it expresses it or not. So that practice can change your gene expression, but it does something very powerful for the brain waves too. It
Mhm.
puts you into a state where the brain is focused, like the waves for focus
Mhm.
increases, but at the same time, the brain waves that are like associated with calm, those also increase.
Welcome to Lunch with Leaders, the podcast where we explore what it takes to lead, thrive, and create lasting impact. I'm Adesileju Dogalanya, a TEDx speaker, leadership strategist, and the founder of African Women in STEM. Each episode features insightful conversations with innovators, trailblazers, and leaders from around the world who are transforming cultures, redefining leadership, and shaping the future of work. Together, we'll share the stories, strategies, and mindsets that will empower women in STEM to amplify their visibility, influence, and impact. So, if you're ready to lead boldly, amplify your voice, and help influence what leadership looks like for women in STEM, hit follow, share this podcast, and join us every week for impactful conversations, powerful stories, and practical strategies.
Alrighty, so today our guest is Annalise Richmond. I will go ahead and read her bio so you know how incredible she is. And I'm going to let you know right now she has a beautiful gift for us. So, Annalise Richmond is the International Director of Sky Campus Happiness and a master trainer of breathwork, meditation, and leadership with over 24 years of experience. She's a former professional ballerina in New York City, and she discovered breathwork as a key to resilience in a high pressure career. So, since then, she has taught over 25,000 students and trained over 1,500 instructors globally. So, Annalise is a frequent guest lecturer at leading institutions, including Yale, MIT, Columbia, and at organizations like Google. And she has been featured in the Yale School of Management Leading with Power and Influence program. Welcome to the show, Annalise. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Daisy. I'm so happy to be with you. I love your spirit.
Thank you. And I'm going to get into some of that today as well because it's interesting how your work. I keep finding people that discover this incredible thing that they're doing right now based on just trying to solve a problem from your previous work or previous life. So I'm glad you're doing this right now. And I'm so happy you're here so we can talk more about it. Okay. So let's get into kind of like what I say, your career, you started out as a ballerina. First of all, that's hard. My daughter does dance, and I just give her the props all the time. And from what you're watching on TV, because I mean, apart from my daughter, the only way I know about ballerinas is what we see on TV, how it's so grueling and it's so hard. And I think there was this movie that came out, something about the Black Swan or whatever, and it didn't help anything. But there's so much pressure, a lot of pressure to perform well and to perform with this incredible precision. So you have to keep going and going and going. So in that season in your life, I'm pretty sure that you had to deal with a lot of stress, a lot of burnout, and the cost of just constantly being on and being able to perform. And I can liken this to what most of our listeners are dealing with in their careers, which is just a lot. There's just so much expectation. So, what did you learn from this season of your life, and how did you transition to where it wasn't such an issue anymore?
You're right. Being in the ballet world or ballerina, it's like constant work and you're constantly under pressure. You're constantly kind of overtaxing your body and your mind, I would say, which probably a lot of our listeners, you're relating to this because you're constantly overtaxing your body and mind. What did I learn from that? I guess I learned you need tools to balance yourself. Otherwise, you keep what I would have in my ballet career is overuse injuries. And later you're like, oh, overuse injuries. Like I was overusing my body and my mind. Like, because in the ballet world, they don't give you breaks. They don't do what they do with like football teams and stuff where they know your body needs a day to recover. They use science there. In the dance world, it's more like, we don't have enough funding, so we're just going to keep working them hard. So it's funny that now I ended up doing what I do, which is teaching other people how to rejuvenate themselves in a very deep and fast way. And I think that's what I learned in that career, that if you don't keep rejuvenating yourself in a proper way, not just the body, but the mind is running the body. So you have to have a way to deeply reset the mind, which resets your whole nervous system. And I wish in the first 7 or 8 years of my dance career, I had the techniques that I teach now, especially the main breathwork and meditation technique that I teach, Sudarshan Kriya. Its main talent is like deeply detoxifying the whole system and then really rejuvenating and raising the energy. And it basically gives you more capacity. So I do credit that practice for being able to continue for 7 or 8 more years in my career. I probably would not have lasted that long. I ended up dancing professionally 15 years, but I think without that practice, my body wouldn't have been able to handle it. And I think maybe my mind would have gotten just so tired of the constant pressure. But it was like hitting a complete 100% reset button like every morning. So much so that when I would have to audition for shows inside of our own company, and those auditions used to be like you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. People were so nervous and like, I have to get this. It's like you have to get the promotion in your work or whatever. And I remember after I was doing my sky breath meditation practice long enough, I walked into one of those like, it's the big deal. I get it. I don't get it. Doesn't matter. I was like, not very stressed, even though I was still doing the audition. So I was just amazed the resilience that the practice brought me. Also the lightness in the mind, like nothing's the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking, I just kind of likened it to, like having to audition every single time is kind of your performance review, because technically you're auditioning to keep the role. Or if you're going to have like an interview or conversation to get a promotion, it's kind of the same thing. And you're right, there's so much pressure around that time. There's so much tension. And it shouldn't be, but unfortunately it is. And then, what you said about later on realizing for you, like it doesn't really matter what the outcome is. I can relate to that because where I am right now, I'm like, it's yes, no, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but I know like a couple of years ago, and for most of my career, that was not the case. I think we somehow always lead with it has to work, it has to succeed, otherwise the world is over. Yes, two options. They're not extreme. They're not like extreme this or extreme that, but we don't. There's a lot that happens in the in between, but for some reason we stick to the extremes, and I don't think it helps us in any way. So I'm just like curious. Did you start this practice while you were still a ballerina? And then when did you know to transition to kind of doing what you're doing right now?
Listen, yeah, actually, I danced professionally for 7 or 8 years, and I had a pretty devastating injury that was misdiagnosed, and then I couldn't walk for like a year, which, I mean, for a dancer, it's like not walking is crazy. And I think that made me start searching, like, oh, what else? But I couldn't think of anything else I wanted to do but dance. And that made me kind of run. I was really looking within myself. What is it that I really want? And what does this career mean anyway? Like, at the end of my life, am I going to be happy? You know what I mean? Like, I started thinking more like that, which made me run into the art of living and take my first course there. So, yeah, I had gotten my job at the Metropolitan Opera, which I always wanted. And then I took my first art of living course, which was a weekend course. And that really made me realize, okay, I do want to continue dancing, but I need to not feel like everything's life or death. Like we were just saying, there's somebody else in that world. I'm sure it's like everybody's work world. There's so many politics. There's super amounts of competition. There's all the good stuff in a good movie, backstabbing, jealousy, drama. So it depends like that's all the world is. And it made me realize, like, okay, I got into this profession because I love to dance. And okay, I might as well just kind of enjoy it. And then I realized, though, that I wanted to start giving back. And it wasn't enough for me to be on a stage in front of people. I used to want to dance because I thought somehow I could inspire people without words. But then I realized when I learned all these practices that I should teach this to others because I don't know how people in New York survive without a very good breathing and meditation practice. So I started teaching the art of living courses on the side as a volunteer. Actually, I took the training and then I taught as a volunteer on the weekends when I could squeeze in a course. And I think maybe what made me, there were two things that made me realize the power of it. Because we're teaching like a 3-day program that's pretty intense that is supposed to reset people. So I was teaching and then September 11th hit. I know I'm really dating myself, but I was teaching, yep, it was 2001, September 11th, and people were very traumatized. And the city, New York kind of froze, and people were just like walking around the streets with such a look on their face, like, what's next? And we started teaching. Actually, we were given permission by the founder of Art. His name is Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He said people are very traumatized in New York. Teach courses for free for a year. And I would teach in museums, all kinds of crazy places would give their space and say, please teach this for trauma relief. So when I taught those courses, I would see people come in, they just look like a ghost, like they weren't kind of there. Like the anxiety or trauma was so high, they look in shock, actually. And after 3-4 days of learning all the practices, and then they dove into the sky breath meditation, they looked like they came back to life. Like their face came back to life. And that made me realize that these practices aren't just about relaxation. They're about taking the deep-seated stresses or impressions or traumas out of the system so you can be, again, like more resilient and thrive more like you did when you were a little kid. That's what I noticed it does for people. They kind of return to their more childlike nature. They have more energy. They have more capacity to thrive. So that really made me feel I need to transition and just teach this full time because people have trauma or they have baggage. And so people need these practices. So instead of feeling more and more bogged down as you go through your life, you can feel more and more free, but still be very effective in this world.
I mean, that's incredible. I can't even imagine how much impact that has had. And I'm just listening to you now. I'm thinking about the fact that one of the things I recognize based on my experience and based on conversations I've had with other women in STEM is, over time, especially people that have spent over a decade in their careers and just every day trying to survive the pressure of being a woman that has to prove herself at every single stage and having to work 10 times as hard to just, be taken a little bit seriously. And we've come to accept that as the norm because you're told, hey, you get into the spaces, you have to do this thing. And again, I think it's always happened over time because people will tell you about like several years ago, they have women in senior leadership and they're always very like, almost like jaded, stoic or whatever. But now it's like years later, you're realizing that all of that is really affecting you as a person, your health, your wellness, all of these things. And if there's one good thing that came out of COVID and all of that, it's just that we're more conscious. So now people are beginning to realize that you can't separate all of that stress from the impact it has on you physically as well. And it's coming up in so many ways, like autoimmune diseases. It's kind of on the rise with a lot of people in these careers. So when you say we're saying, when I'm like, oh my goodness, I think we need this. Literally, like, come and just get the tools. I'm doing something about this on June 27th for people to get the tools to just learn how to heal. And just listening to you about talking about like when they come in, they're jaded, in shock, and 3 days later, there's a transformation. This kind of gives me hope. And I hope that everybody that's listening to this should just take it a little bit more. Just take that step because these things do work. I mean, even if you just breathe, really breathe, it does a lot to your system, and then you can think about other things. So Annalise is here. You're going to learn more about her today, and then you're going to check it out and figure out how she's going to help you. All right. So when we talk about breathwork, I remember the first time I heard and experienced it on the same day. So there's breathwork. So there's this founder that was like, he started his company, he was pushing to succeed, and he was successful, but he was so unhappy, he was so sick, he was so stressed out. And he was just like, you know what, he just woke up one day, he's like, I'm done. I mean, not done, but he just kind of took a decision to figure out a way to transition out of a lot of things that he was doing and kind of went on this journey to figure out how to get better and heal, and one of the things he did was to become like a breathwork expert. I'm always curious to try things. So he was like, I was like, yeah, breathwork. you did this exercise and that'll work. So can you help us understand how intentional breathwork can actually impact us and help us in our careers, help us as leaders, help us to make better decisions? Just overall, do help us with our performance, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very passionate about that. The funny thing is, my teacher says, it's weird. You never knew the solution is right under your nose. It's been with you all your life. Yeah, so I think there's a couple levels with breath work. With short techniques, it can just take your system from sympathetic mode, which is the fight or flight. You're running from the tiger, but you're running from the deadline or the interview you have to do or whatever. So it takes you from sympathetic mode to parasympathetic mode. In the moment, it'll do that. It'll parasympathetic mode being rest or digest. So certain techniques will do that pretty quickly, which is amazing because think that we're stuck in an emotion, then think I have to get away from the situation. But how often can you just like leave your workplace or leave a high pressure meeting or conference? Like that's not always so effective. So yes, like many breathing technique can put us into that parasympathetic mode, rest and digest, that calm and focus, which is really nice. And then I would say the value of learning a deeper practice is that, especially if you end up practicing every day or every other day, you kind of train your system to stay in that mode of like calm, focus, and clarity, no matter what crazy amount of stresses are being thrown at you. So I'd say there's kind of two levels. One is using a breathing technique in the moment, which is very effective and needed. And maybe you have a high stakes talk you're going to do, and there's like thousands of people, and you're like, oh, then you're doing it right as you're coming to the stage, or you're in a meeting that's very tense, and it's like you can cut the atmosphere with a knife, right? It's like you could use a breathing technique in the moment to center yourself. But I'm a big believer, because I've done it for so many years, in having a practice, a little deeper practice that involves breathwork and meditation, so that you can keep your system in a way, it's a higher energy state, so that the mind is more positive or it's more clear. When you have more energy, the mind's more clear and resilient. And then when stresses come, it's almost like they bounce off of you instead of you soak it in, So there's kind of two levels, but I can do one of the quicker ones today, take with them.
Put more to that because, like you said, we don't always have the luxury of living, the environment at any particular time that is like high stress, or even or for a period of time, even like you can leave work. That doesn't mean that the stress has left you because you're going back to work. So you can just take vacation. We can take a sabbatical anytime you want. There's just so many things. So there's value in that, but there's also value in stepping away and taking some more time and going kind of deeper. So I'm excited for what we're going to do today, just because sometimes people may not be able to recognize when they're that stressed out. So I think I've probably said this on the podcast before, but it's a very good example of a friend of mine that it took her years for us to realize it. So she just realized that every time, this was a year, she breaks out and has all these headaches and everything, and she just will take, figure out, oh my God, I don't know what this is. And then it kept coming and coming. And then one day she really had to think about it, and she was having a conversation, and the person kind of helped her, like, what's happening? And she realized that it was around the course of the year, and there was just so much work to do. And it was the same time every year, but it took her several years to realize that. It took her having a conversation with someone to realize that. So a lot of people have these symptoms or experiences, but they normalize it. This is how my body is, this is what happens to me, and they don't really tie it to anything. So what are some of the signs that people can be looking out for to show that, for example, their nervous system is overloaded, or something is going on, or they should dig a little bit deeper, even if they're still able to push through and do the work? What signs should you be looking out for? Because what I see is people keep pushing through, and normalizing whatever they have without bothering to do some kind of like quick check to see if or this is caused by something external that they can begin to work on.
Yeah, I would say, people won't like hearing this, but it's like whenever you're feeling like extremely tired, and every day you're tired and things feel like you dread the day, like that is the sign that you're pushing through too much. I think headaches can be a sign. Lots of headaches, unless there's something in the environment, something you're allergic to. But when you're starting to get headaches, it often is like a stress headache. But I think one thing we can really notice is if we start really snapping at people, or like a situation that when small things make us, like really react, that means we've kind of reached some certain stress threshold. And your intellect will tell you like, oh man, I don't know why I snapped, my husband or my kid, they just said this little thing and I freaked out. I mean, you can't blame yourself. It's like you went close to your stress threshold. And I think when small little things set us off, that's a good check. Like, wait a minute, maybe I need to rest a little more, or I need to do a little retreat, or I need to learn some practices. Because, the practice I do, I think I already said it, it's called sky breath meditation. It's like whatever stresses you accumulate on a daily basis, it just gets erased. It's like every 24 hours is like, boom, you push it out of the system. So nothing builds up. Like if you don't do the dishes one day and then, or throughout the day, another day, the sink is full, it's like crazy, and the kitchen is full of dishes, or, I don't know if that's the best analogy, but when we let things build up, and it's hard. It's very hard to get rid of it. It's harder to like lower it down. But a daily practice, even every other day, that's what I love about my sky. It lets that little bit of whatever I've accumulated over 24 hours, it just blows it out of the system and you're back to a clean slate.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you were just talking, I just remember something that someone said. I went through this public speaking program, and then we do get to do some exercises. One of the things that we did was just like shake your body. And then the analogy they gave was like, like in the wild, you have the hunter and the hunted. So as we talk about like the deer or antelope or whatever, like usually when they escape a near-death experience, they have like this convulsive thing where their whole body kind of shakes. But the thing is that once that's done, okay, then back to normal. So when you say that, I was like, oh my goodness, it's like nature already has kind of created this thing. But I think us as human beings, with I'll probably say synthetic evolution too, because there's some things that we start doing or stop doing and stuff like that. We've kind of moved away from the things that would naturally have happened to help us deal with stress. And then the second point I wanted to bring up is, when you talked about like when you're building up and you're snapping at people, I keep thinking about, at least let me use myself as an experience. The other person is the problem. The kids are too loud. My husband is so not. I mean, if we focus more on which way we normally go, like everything and everyone is a problem, and we focus less on ourselves. So what you're saying is when something like that happens, start inward first before you go out, because most of the time it's like,
yes,
it's from us. So like, you know this.
it might sound scary at first, like what? But my own meditation teacher, Guru Dev, he says like the most powerful person is the one who takes responsibility for their own mind and emotions. And at first you're like, no, I want to blame that, or but it's true when we can take responsibility. Like, okay, I'm responsible for my inner state, my mind, my emotions, my reactivity. That's very powerful. Then you're in charge. Then we need practices that can clear. Like neither at home or in school have we learned how to handle our negative emotions, how to clean them out of the system. And that's why I started Sky Campus Happiness with Guru Dev. And the team I thought this should be an education. People should be learning how to clear their negative emotions, how to calm themselves, how to have more energy and more calm in the midst of the craziness of, our modern world is insane. The amount we expect, it's pretty ridiculous. So I feel that, people really need the tools to manage negative emotions and manage the inner world of thoughts and emotions. And that can be done. These techniques are ancient. They're not new. They're like the techniques that I've learned or I'm teaching through Art of Living and Sky Campus are from the ancient yogic discipline, yoga tradition. It's also called a science. It is a science. Like these practices change your hormones. They change your whole biochemistry. They change whatever's pumping through your system. Cortisol goes down, right? And even the feel-good hormones go up in a lot of the research. It's called serum prolactin goes up when we practice these techniques, which is what most antidepressants are trying to boost in the system. There's a natural way to do all that. And I think people need it nowadays because the world is, I don't think our brains are designed to do all this, to work a crazy high pressure career, have a family, cook the meals, do the laundry. It's like your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Snapchat, your Slack, your Discord. I mean, just like so much, your phone messages at work, at home. It's a ridiculous amount we're expecting of people. It's not really sustainable. So I feel that the way the world is right now, I don't know if it'll shift. Maybe it'll shift if more women are in charge. But for now, we need some tools to make it sustainable because it's not really, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't at all. So we're going to take a little break and get some messages from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. And now we're back. I just kind of wanted to bring this up because women, and like what you said earlier about if women rule the world. Okay, I feel the same way. But I also want to add that women are very intuitive.
Yeah.
Throughout my entire life, I've recognized it with my uncles and their wives, or my mom or my dad, or other women. Like you say something, they would immediately know that that's, for example, going nowhere or going somewhere. But the men are always like, I'm not going to override it. And then they end up realizing I should have listened to my wife in the first place, or, my mom, or whatever the case may be. But you're saying that intuition, yes, it's natural for like women, for example, for the most part, but it can also be learned. You're saying.
Yes.
Can you tell us, so for people that are like, oh, but I don't know. I mean, I trust my gut, but sometimes my gut leads me astray or whatever. Can you tell us how to intentionally like train intuition, if that's a word, so that we can support our lives and our careers in making the right decisions for ourselves?
Yes. So actually all of us have intuition, or it's called the sixth sense, right? And there's also a seventh sense that we're surrounded by that's called nonsense. No, I'm just kidding. So we have a sixth sense. We really do. And the thing with the intuition is it's somewhere a little beyond or underneath the layer of thoughts, regular logical thoughts, right there, because intuition is associated on the feeling level, which is a much finer or refined level than thoughts. You have the body, then the breath is a little more subtle. Then you have the mind, which is much more subtle. Think about it. You can't even catch the mind. It's running to the future. It's racing to the past, future, past, future. It can travel so fast. So the thought level is very subtle. It's energy impulses. What gets in the way of us accessing our intuition is the racing thoughts. That we can't hear the intuition, which is underneath or behind it. But yeah, I would say maybe women are much more in tune with it. And maybe women pay more attention to it. Is that you have all these thoughts, and then there's this very quiet voice. It's like, you should do this. It's just very quiet and subtle, like a whisper. And then the problem is your intellect can say, no, that's so stupid. I'm not going to do that. So the intellect often trumps that quiet. It just takes over that quiet, intuitive voice. So really, it's just a matter of practicing listening to it. Because later on, you'll go, oh, see, I knew it. Even as something as simple as a little voice said, take the umbrella. And you're like, no, I don't need to take the umbrella today. And then you're stuck in the rain. Like these small things are where you can practice. But that's why as people practice meditation, their intuition gets stronger and stronger. You are building your intuitive sense by meditating, but it's really that you're making the thought layer more transparent or see-through, or you're more aware, oh, that's just a thought. That's just a random thought that's racing at the future, and you're able to access the intuition more deeply. This is one of the This is one of the reasons when I used to teach investment bankers Art of Living courses in New York, and they live a couple blocks from work because they would be at work till like 1 a.m. Like a ridiculous schedule. So they go back at 7. So they want to be able to run home and sleep and come back. I would always be amazed when I would check in with them. Oh, you're probably not doing your practice, right? And they're like, no, are you kidding? I pay time for my 20 minutes of practice because I'm so much more effective on the floor. People are like, how are you remaining so calm in this high pressure environment? And they said, and I make the right decisions. In a way, a practice saves you time because you're more in tune with that intuitive voice that tells you, make this decision or say this in the meeting or don't say anything like, like you save yourself a lot of time when you're in touch with your intuition because that can guide you. Even in business practices, it guides you. So I would say, again, it's all about a little bit of meditation is what strengthens that kind of muscle.
Yeah. I mean, I like what you're saying, and I'm pretty sure listening always likes that because, again, we do understand that for investment bankers, their career and their schedule and all of that is really crazy. So if just taking 20 minutes to do an exercise can really, I'm not going to advise that you keep going that way for 10, 15, 20 years without changing a lot of other things. But if it can help, because I know my husband, he was an attorney. He's an attorney, but he used to work in New York. Same thing, I mean, he didn't live in New York, but also long hours, all of that stuff. And it's not sustainable over a long period of time, but having practices like this to help you a little bit in the short term, probably your intuition will tell you that this is not the way to live for the rest of your life.
Your intuition also will tell you the bigger things, like, it's just not for me anymore. Okay, I got what I needed to get out of it. Now I'm ready to transition. This is also intuition.
And just now that you said, I started thinking about the fact that sometimes people find it hard to make a decision to transition into something else because they're waiting for that clear, loud, I heard a friend of mine yesterday, she was talking about one of her clients needed to make a decision that she had 2 options, but she could see clearly those 2 options, like all the pros and cons and everything. And it's like, I can't make a choice. And it's like most times we're in our head, especially if you're like high functioning, really smart, always a thinker and all that kind of stuff. So coming back, all the way back and just realizing that it's not going to be this loud, like, do this, analyze, or else you will suffer pain, but more subtle. I'm really glad that you're sharing this because I'm hoping that everybody listening right now can actually think about it a little bit more and snap small because Annalise said you can just do 20 minutes and it'll make a world of difference.
Yes. Yeah. So we can,
you know what? I think this is the right time to actually like do something because I am something. I want something. But before we do that, I just want to ask one more thing. So, for someone that is listening to us right now and be like, okay, I don't know what it's been, right? You've mentioned earlier that some of the practices that you do right now are as old as time.
Yeah.
Also, it's the science. The science that backs it up. And just, it helps us be better humans.
Yes.
It helps us be more conscious and more aware. It helps us be, to your point, like you talk about the investment bankers that are able to make better decisions that are calm. And when you're calm and you're able to make better decisions,
yes,
you're going to be a better leader, which is why we're having this conversation in the first place.
Exactly.
So when people are skeptical, like, forget it. I don't know what I'm talking about. Can we just talk a little bit more about like the science of all of this?
Yes.
And how it ties into our biology and all of that, so that at least they can have a reference point to go to for the research and figure out how this is really good.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would say for leaders, I wish all over the world they learn these practices first because you can only give what you have. If you want to give others calm or reassurance or inspiration is always better than motivation, right? Then you have to have it yourself. And then you need to have a way to replenish that in yourself. But the research is pretty amazing. One of our more recent, we did on the Sky Campus Happiness Program, which is our program for students across campuses. And in that program, the main evidence-based technique we teach them is the sky breath meditation, and then we also teach them how service and leadership and service lens helps you lead your life better. And we also do a lot of social connection because it also has a lot of research behind it. So we were part of a research at Yale that compared 3 well-being programs. And one of them was mindfulness, which was interesting because I thought, well, maybe it'll be a little similar, but I haven't taken mindfulness myself and an emotional intelligence program was there from Yale and then a control group. But it was interesting that the Sky program had the highest results. It was like 6 significant results, which was anxiety significantly decreased in the research, depression significantly decreased, the high stress level significantly decreased. What increased was pleasant emotion throughout the day. That was like significant increase. What also increased is the social connection, feeling of social connection, which means you feel connected to others. You feel comfortable to be yourself. So as a leader, you need that. You need to feel connected and you need to be able to create that sense of connection. And what also increased was mental health. The mental health went up significantly, which was a very cool study. And for some reason, the mindfulness group did not have results in those 6 parameters. And the emotional intelligence group had one significant result, which is it raised a sense of mindfulness during the day, which is the sense of being present. But the other studies on sky breath meditations show that it changes your gene expression, which is interesting. Yeah, because you can be predisposed for certain conditions and things like that based on your genes, but what counts is whether it expresses it or not. So that practice can change your gene expression, but it does something very powerful for the brain waves too. It puts you into a state where the brain is focused, like the waves for focus increases, but at the same time, the brain waves that are like associated with calm, those also increase. So it brings you into a state where the brain is very focused and alert and aware, but calmer. So you're not like taking as much energy. You have to maybe run a meeting with like all these personalities and you're not taking as much energy to do it, but your brain is very aware and alert. That's kind of the ideal. So that's what a lot of the research shows when they've hooked people up to the electrodes and so it feels like, and the cortisol level goes down, which is an indicator of stress in the system, but it stays lower. In the Sky practitioners, it stays much lower over time. And then certain kind of feel-good hormones are boosted. Some of those feel-good hormones are ones that they're called like cuddle hormone in slang, which means you feel like connected to others. So for me, that's so important for a leader because you're like, oh, I belong to this person. Like whenever you have that mindset, you're going to be a better leader and you're going to feel better about yourself as a leader too.
Oh my God, like I am mind blown and I'm so excited. And I'm thinking after this call, we're going to have a long conversation about so many other things. So this is really incredible, wonderful. Like I can't even tell you how excited I am. And I think this might be a really good time for you to kind of show us a little bit of, what you're talking about, guide us through a short session, whatever one you want to choose, so that we can begin to at least enjoy some of that. And I want to say, if you're driving, please, let's pause the podcast here. When you get home, you press play and then you go through this, all right? We don't want you to be doing this while you're driving, just in case you get really relaxed. Well, Annalise, you guide us through some of the exercises?
Yes. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so how much time we want to do? Like 7, 8 minutes? Or
I'll say 5 minutes, 5, 6 minutes.
I think good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to teach you a breathing technique. The original name is in Sanskrit as all the yoga techniques, and that is called Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi, Ujjayi. Jai means victory in Sanskrit. So victory breath, and it's victory over what takes your mind out of the moment or what disturbs the mind, what clouds it. So this is something that we do it a little naturally as we're falling asleep at night. And then we do it louder when we're sleeping. we start snoring. So Ujjayi breath is a little bit like a light snore that we're going to do consciously, but you do it sitting. We don't do it laying down, otherwise you fall asleep. When we do it sitting, it puts us into a different meditative state. Okay, so it sounds like this. Okay, so I'm going to take you through it with the mouth open. It's easier. We'll do it with the mouth open, then we'll close the mouth, and then we'll close the eyes, and we'll just breathe like that for a minute or two. Yeah. Okay, so let's do a loud whisper together like this. Good. Yikes. Feel where you're pushing the air from the throat. Okay, one more time. Loud whisper.
Okay.
Now whisper with the mouth closed. Good. And on the way in and on the way out. And close the eyes and breathe in like that. And breathe out. With the eyes closed. Breathe in with the sound. Then breathe out. Breathe in with the sound. And breathe out. The sound in the back of the throat. Breathing in and breathing out. Long, deep breaths. Deep breathing with the sound in the throat. A little bit of a snoring sound. And breathe into the whole body. The legs and the arms. Using the breath into the shoulders and head. Breathe into the whole body. A few more breaths with this snoring sound in the throat. Without too much effort. One more breath. With the eyes closed, you can relax the breath. Let your breath return to normal. And notice how you're feeling in the body and mind. You can relax the whole body, the toes, legs, feet, and knees. Relax the thighs and hips, abdomen and stomach. And relax the chest and shoulders, the arms and the hands. Take your attention to your throat, neck, and face, eyes, and the top of the head, the whole body. The whole body. Then just gently become aware of your thoughts. Good or bad thoughts, it doesn't matter. Let them come. Don't resist any thoughts. Now you are in harmony with your thoughts, with your mind. And also, let's become aware of our feelings. Whatever feelings are there, pleasant or unpleasant feelings. Accept the feelings as they are. At the deepest level, you are peace and joy. Breathe in and breathe out. You are peace. And again, become aware of your feelings. And become aware of your thoughts, if there are any. Become aware of any sensations in your body. Become aware of the whole environment around you. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. A long, deep breath in and breathe out. And slowly and gradually, whenever you feel ready, taking your time, you can gently and slowly open your eyes. How do you feel?
I kind of went somewhere else. I was supposed to be present to my environment, but then he said something. I was like, "Oh, where'd they go?"
I mean, to go into that next meditative state where you do forget the environment, even for a moment. And if any of you were doing it with eyes closed, you could forget the body for a moment. But that's good. It lets it reset. Yeah, when you kind of forget that it exists. It's like 2 or 3 minute meditation. But the Ujjayi breath is very powerful. Ujjayi breath or victory breath is one of the ones that takes you from sympathetic mode to parasympathetic mode of the nervous very quickly. Did you notice how when we're doing that sound in the throat, it makes the mind become so calm and it lets the body settle? Yeah.
Yeah, because when you said, I had to like start thinking of, oh, what are my thoughts? Because I did not have any thoughts brought into that.
And the other thing that Ujjayi breath does is it affects the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is kind of the director of your whole nervous system. So the vagus nerve goes from the brainstem all the way down. So it governs the lungs, the heart, the respiratory system. It governs the stomach and the digestion. Basically, you have your second brain in your stomach. So if you can stimulate the vagus nerve, it brings a lot of robust health and immune system gets stimulated. So even with this tiny little technique, but it really is the tip of the iceberg. Like I would say,
Excited.
yeah, I would want to encourage anyone to learn a deeper practice. And I mean, for me, that was through the art of living, learning guide breath meditation, but some practice that really rejuvenates your whole system. Worth learning.
Right, this is it's because I've been having this conversation around health and wellness for the last 2 years or so, but especially in the last couple of weeks. And it's just been coming up, like, especially in the United States, at least this is where I live.
Yeah.
There's a lot of focus or emphasis on treatment. Let's treat it, let's treat it, let's treat it. The reality is that there's so many things that we can do, because I talked about earlier how a lot of women develop autoimmune diseases, and you're talking about how meditation and breathwork and taking some of these practices can actually help you with your immune system. And you talked about the genes too. Just yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone because 2 days ago, someone told me about the book called Dirty Genes. And he was like, the writer said that you can actually, it's about epigenetics and stuff like that. You can actually get dirty genes from like your DNA, like genetics and stuff like that. You can also get it because of how you live your life and things you do. But the thing that he said is that you can clean your genes. And this is kind of like one of those things where you can actually change. There's some of the things that you're predisposed to because of your DNA. They don't have to happen. And you can do that by learning some of these practices and just doing them consistently. And for me, this is really key
Yes.
because I actually went online to Google to type this thing that women go through. Is it really an epidemic? And Google said yes. I mean, there's some research that people have mentioned here and there that's beginning to look like some. Oh,
Wow.
by the time you go through your corporate career, you're like, health wise, you just
Yeah.
lost. It's just one of those things, and we just, oh, that's the way it is. That's how career is. But I love what you did. It's a very small example, but it shows us that no, it doesn't have to be.
Right.
It doesn't have to be, and we have options besides waiting until everything breaks down, and then now we're kind of like tied to medication that for the most part have terrible side effects.
They do. I mean, if there's anything I've learned from studying all this with Guru Dev's like a master of the yogic tradition, he's not just a meditation teacher. That's what blows my mind. He's probably the most interesting leader to study on the planet, I would say right now, is that he's constantly moving from country to country, meeting with government leaders. Right now, he's in Uzbekistan on a state visit. I think as a meditator, his goal is creating peace between countries and communities, which is amazing because that means that we can bring this into the outer expression. So I love watching him as a leader because he has this insane schedule, like every 2 days in a different country, maintains that high level of leadership and finesse and listening to people's problems and seeing how it can be addressed. I think because of the practices. Practices is the foundation, and then that raises the awareness. And with the intention to serve or help others, we can go so much further than our capacity. I think we could go further than we ever thought we could by using practices, the right practices, and then that intention to serve. How can I create peace and thriving for others? That intention also makes a big difference.
I love that. And I kind of like that you mentioned
Guru Dev, Sri
Drew.
Yeah. Like,
This is like, there's a reason to your point. I mean, he may have started with meditation and all those practices, but he's kind of gone beyond that. You said from the inside out to actually try to make the world.
yes.
So I'm gonna ask you the same question for you. You've been doing this for years. You've trained so many people. You've helped thousands. Okay. As your work is succeeding and continues to succeed, how do you look for people to experience the world, to experience leadership or career or just life differently because of what you have helped, introduce them to or build or so on?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I think if we can bring well-being into all of our workplaces or just into our life is a foundation, because with a disturbed mind, you can't do much or it doesn't come out so well. If your mind is disturbed, it's like you're taking a picture with a camera that has dirt all over it. A clear mind and maybe even a clear heart, like emotions more settled, is very necessary. So some well-being practices are the foundation, but I strongly believe our Sky Campus program has taught 650,000 students. So like seeing it expand, and working with so many of our instructors, we have about 250 instructors in the US. I believe that if we can bring ethics into our business practices and maybe those of you listening today have your own business, the more we put ethics into business, the more the world will change. And if people can look at their work as a service to society, or they're like, okay, I'm going to make money, but I'm going to put this 10% into this charitable cause or whatever, the more I think we look at our work as how can I serve the society will shift. And if you look at the super younger generation, I'm still teaching. Sometimes when I go to universities, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they actually don't care so much anymore about having a high-paying career. They want to do something purposeful where they're doing something conscious and helping change the planet. So I think that we're all moving towards that we need. And women are the best. They espouse this the best because they're a natural mother. Whether you have kids or not, you're like a mother of the planet. So like doing something where our work is helping take care of the planet and has like ethics intertwined, I think is very, very important. And that makes our work more refreshing and energizing too.
Yeah, I'm excited. And, what I said about ethics is true, but I remember because I'm a mechanical engineer working in pipeline. So you get your professional engineering license and then you have to renew it every so often. And one of the requirements that you have to take some kind of ethics continuing development thing. Funny enough, it's like, I don't have to take this ethics course. Feeling for most people, because it's like, I guess one of the reasons is that because it's required, it's never really free, and now you have to go pay for it, and the company doesn't pay for it, and now it have to be 2 hours, and now I have to take a test for some states. But it's like, I already know this, why do I have to keep doing it? But I understand, there's a reason why it's there, but I think to your point, if we can figure out a way to integrate ethics in a way that is just natural, it's not like one more thing I have to do because otherwise my license gets away. But be more like the 18, 19, 20-year-olds that you are working with right now, that for them, this is it. And then that's where they operate from.
Yes.
And I can imagine what that kind of world would be, because that's also the world that I'm trying to create with the work that I do every day. I just want to say thank you so much. Like, this was so amazing.
Daisy, so beautifully, I feel like you're infusing inspiration and best practices, ethics into our women leaders, which is so important. The more women stand up and lead, even in the face of some difficulty, the more they stay centered, they're going to be more powerful, that kind of warrior woman, and they'll shift the way workplaces are happening, I think, as long as they open their mouth and speak from a centered place. And I love that you're empowering women leaders to do that. It's very beautiful. It's super needed right now. It's more women leaders,
I know. It just kind of takes me back to some of the memes I saw a couple of years ago, where they were like, if women had led the world the last 1,000 years or whatever, and it kind of showed like the G8, and everybody was like, what? Oh, I think they were like, oh, that's taken care of. And the G8 whole thing lasted like 20 minutes, and everybody was done. And they're like, oh, let's go get tea and coffee, and that was it. Because we would have figured everything out. I strongly believe that. But
Yep.
thank you so much. This was really good. I hope everybody listening got so much from this. And I want to ask you, so what are you working on right now? And how can people connect with you if they want to learn more or collaborate?
Oh, nice. Okay. Right now, I've become the international director of Sky Campus Happiness. So I'm bringing this work and our Sky Campus program to different universities and young people populations in different countries. I also am still a teacher trainer for the Art of Living. So I teach our Art of Living classes across the country. How can they connect with me? I guess on LinkedIn or Instagram can work. Annalise Richmond, Annelies, Richmond, like the city. More broadly, through the Art of Living, we have our 3-day kind of weekend retreats, Art of Living course in every city in USA. You can just look it up on .org. And that's a great way to do it. Or if you want to go to a beautiful retreat center that I'm teaching at next week, it's the Art of Living Retreat Center in Boone, North Carolina. That is like an amazing place to rejuvenate, take a 3-day program, but also be in a retreat setting. So those I would recommend. And you can also connect with me through our Sky Campus Happiness team. Our university program is skycampushappiness.org. And we'd love to work with anyone. We can also bring breathwork and meditation to your workplaces if you want.
That's wonderful. I'm already getting all kinds of ideas, right? So everyone listening, make sure you follow Annalise. She's Annalise Richmond on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Yeah.
And follow me, tag us, and tell us what was most helpful today. And if you did the practice, the exercise with us, tell us what you experienced. And if you did appreciate it, just let Annalise know. Because the goal of this is not just to listen, but to listen and take something and take action and get better in your life and in your career and in your leadership. And one way you can support us in this podcast is by leaving a written review. So let us know how you loved this episode, or what you thought about this episode, what you thought about Annalise and everything that we talked about today. And I'll be shouting you out in the future episodes as well. I'm gonna say thank you, Annalise. This was amazing. I want to continue for like the next 30 minutes, 2 hours, because this is like an incredible, incredible experience. And you are in trouble because I am like I'm coming after you because I have all these incredible ideas of
I
what
love
we can do together. But thank you so much.
Thank you. This was amazing. I love your energy, and I hope we do some amazing stuff together for women.
Me too. All right. Well, and for listening, thank you so much, and catch you on the next episode. Bye.